Alright, we are on day 26 of Chronological Bible in 1 year, and we start in Job 26 today. So, two things in our reading today. Really, Job is answering Bildad's response and saying, I know all of this stuff, you know all of this stuff, I'm going to claim my innocence. We get into a little bit of Job speaking formally about wisdom, and then I want to get into Ecclesiastes and talk a little bit. So just a few moments today. I'll get right at it and point out a couple little nuggets that are in here. In Job 26, in verse 6, he says, "The underworld is naked in God's presence. The place of destruction is uncovered. He created the horizon." Verse 10, when he separated the waters, he set the boundary between day and night. Job is describing the awesome power of God, and this is just a scratch of the surface of his power. And he's trying to portray this to Bildad as like, dude, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. Verse 12, "By his power the sea grew calm. By his skull he crushed the great sea monster." I underlined that just because we've heard in previous parts of the Bible about the Leviathan. And this is just the great sea monster again is being mentioned. Verse 14, "These are just the beginning of all that he does, merely a whisper of his power. Who then can comprehend the thunder of his power?" So I wanted to point out, was like, well, neither can Job. Job cannot comprehend his power either. But he's making the point is like, really? Do you guys even have a clue who God is? And you're sitting there complaining about me and my sins, and you don't even know what God is really like. So his final speech, Job's final speech, unbelievable. We're in chapter 27. Verse 3, "As long as I live, while I have breath from God, my lips will speak no evil." Right there, putting it to Satan's face, saying, look, dude, I'm not going to speak evil of God. Verse 5, "I will never concede that you are right." He's talking to his friends here. "I will defend my integrity until I die. I will maintain my innocence without wavering." Here is such a great triumph for Job, is that he has lost everything. He's complained, and he's got his wonderful friends who are trying to point out, innocently saying, you must have done something. And they don't know, and neither does Job know what God has done to them, done to him. But he's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to curse God. I'm not going to do these. I'm not going to speak evil of God. I may question what's happening, but I'm going to stick with my innocence here. Because there's something in all of us that say, wait a minute, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not sure why this is happening in my life, but, on the great map of our life, sometimes it's not a straight line to where we need to go. Verse 12, "But you have seen all this, yet you say all these useless things to me, you wonderful friends of mine." So get into chapter 28. I thought this was a great verse. Verse 5, "Food is grown on the earth above." Yeah. "But down below the earth is melted as by fire." This is way back in the day where they didn't have all the things that we have today. They didn't have telescopes back then. They didn't have things to measure the earth. I mean, yeah, they understood when they would mine things. This is dating Job a little bit. Not at the very beginning of time, but at a point where they're mining for gold and silver, and they realize that the more they dig, the deeper they dig, the harder it gets. So they get this, that if you dig down deep enough that there's fire down there, and they don't have all the technology that we have today. I just thought I'd point that out. These people are not stupid. They're not Neanderthals. Verse 12, "But do people know where to find wisdom?" What a great question. "Where can they find understanding?" Verse 16, it's worth more than all the gold of Ophir, greater than precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Wisdom is more valuable than gold and crystal. It cannot be purchased with jewels mounted in fine gold. Coral and jasper are worthless in trying to get it. The price of wisdom is far above rubies. Precious peridot from Ethiopia, which is Cush, cannot be exchanged for it. It's worth more than the purest gold. But do people know where to find wisdom? Where can they find understanding? Obviously, his friends need a little understanding. It is hidden from the eyes of all humanity. Even the sharp-eyed birds in the sky cannot discover it. Destruction and death say, we've heard only rumors of where wisdom can be found. God alone understands the way to wisdom. He knows where it can be found. For he looks throughout the whole earth and sees everything under the heavens. He sees everything. Then he sees wisdom. Verse 27, he saw wisdom and evaluated it. He set it in place, examined it thoroughly. And this is what he says to all humanity. The fear of the Lord is true wisdom. For to forsake evil is real understanding. Okay, I want to give you a little analogy here. I'm a pilot, and I understand how, as the aerodynamics of the wings, as wind goes over the wings, and you turn the yoke, you turn the stick, and the wings do something. Okay? Well, they do something because of laws of aerodynamics. As wind goes over the wings, the plane rises. As you tilt the stick or the yoke, the wing is changed in a way that it'll cause it to turn. Well, that's based on the laws. We don't make that happen. We didn't come up with the laws of aerodynamics. God set those in place. Without those laws, nothing works. Without the laws of what we have, nothing works. So gravity was put in place by God. Otherwise, things would be floating all over the place. So we need to really have an understanding of what God has really set forth and the power that he had to make all of this. It is not a natural thing. Natural is a word that we defined. We call things natural based on the laws that we've experienced. Well, God is the one who set what things are natural and what aren't, what isn't. So keep that in your mind as this is all played out. And Job really needs to heed his own warnings and say, well, I guess I really don't know anything, and the fear of the Lord is the best way to go about this. Okay, and then we finally get to some things where he's starting to say something about the good old days. Verse 29, his former blessings. Be careful of this. Verse 7, those were the days when I went to the city gate and took my place among the honored leaders. For I assisted the poor in their need and the orphans who required help. I helped those without hope, and they blessed me. And I caused the widows' hearts to sing for joy. Everything I did was honest. Righteousness covered me like a robe, and I wore justice like a turban. I served as eyes for the blind and feet for the lame. So, and then one of those last thoughts in verse 18, I thought, surely I will die surrounded by my family after a long, good life. Okay. Nothing wrong with having wonderful memories of all the great things that we used to do and have done and how we used to feel. But shouldn't we look forward to the rest of our life to do some things? Obviously, we're not in Job's position. We haven't lost everything. We're not in the middle of this turmoil. Okay, if you have your health and you have a job and you have a family still and you're living your life, I'm talking about you right now. You have the rest of your life to do some really great things. We have an opportunity to do great things every day that we wake up. And we should thank God for that day that we wake up and we take another breath. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I want to read to you what Solomon says in Ecclesiastes 7. A few things I want to read. Verse 8 of chapter 7. Finishing is better than starting. Stop worrying about what you just did in the past. Finishing is better. Patience is better than pride. Control your temper, for anger labels you a fool, gives a foothold to the devil. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. There's nothing wrong with remembering them, but don't long for them. That's silly. Look to the future, all the great things you do. Make tomorrow better. Wisdom is even better when you have money. Both are a benefit as you go through life. Wisdom and money can get you almost everything, almost anything. But only wisdom can save your life. Money can't save your life. You cannot buy another day of your life. It can't happen. All the money in the world cannot buy you an extra day. Verse 13, accept the way God does it. Accept it. For who can straighten what he has made crooked? And I wanted to point this out because, God, well, let's go on here. Enjoy prosperity while you can, but when hard times strike, think of Job, realize that both come from God. Remember that nothing is certain in life. Satan is not allowed to do anything without God's permission. You need to get that. Stop blaming Satan for everything. Satan is not omnipresent. He is not everywhere in the world. God is. God is everywhere. God is all-knowing. He sees everything. He knows your thoughts. He knows the future and the past. He is not bound by time. He is the one who set that law of time in place. Think about that one. God lives throughout eternity at the same time. He knows everything. So he sees what's happening before it happens and what has happened in the past. He's there at all times. Everything comes from God. He is ultimately responsible for everything, which means we need to fear that and say, okay, my life is in your hands. I need to look for tomorrow, not in the past. Okay, I want to go on to verse 17. On the other hand, don't be too wicked either. Don't be a fool. Why die before your time? Pay attention to these instructions, for anyone who fears God will avoid both extremes. It means live your life. Enjoy the gift that you've been given. Struggles are going to happen. And when they do, fall back on this lesson. Fall back on this and say, wait a second. I'm breathing. I'm miserable. I'm crying. I'm hurt. I've lost. But God is in control of all of that, not me. Stop hanging on to those things. It's easier said than done. I'm just as guilty as everybody else to long for those things and to not be in pain and suffering. I put an asterisk beside this in verse 20. Not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. Okay, so always and never are the key words there. There's not anybody who's good forever, that's good their whole life and never sins. There's not anybody who has never sinned. Okay? But it doesn't say you can't be good from here on out. You're going to make a sin. You're going to sin. Okay? God's wanting you to be the best you can be. And that's really what we're talking about here. And that's really what Job is all about. In times of plenty and in times of sorrow and pain and suffering, we need to realize that, hey, we still here. God's in control of it. Let's give it up to him and realize that we can be good another day. Right now, we need to take a break and take care of what's going on. Have friends come and console us and be merciful and graceful to us and take advantage of it when it does come. And when you do have plenty, definitely use it for doing something great for God. All right, that's day 26. See you tomorrow.